Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Into the GSMC Basketball Podcast here on the GSMC Basketball on the Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brice Lewis. In today's show, we're going to be remembering Kobe Bryant as legacy. The show's going to be mainly about Kobe, as obviously that is the biggest news in all of basketball, in any sport, any league, anything. Kobe Bryant suddenly passing away Sunday morning after a helicopter accident happened that killed him, his daughter, and 8 other people. Very unfortunate accident. The NBA and the basketball world, in the world, was taken by shock and was absolutely just, emotional yesterday. This is clearly a big thing for a lot of people. So this show, we're going to talk about Kobe. We're going to talk about things that people have done, how players performed the day Kobe passed away, things that around the league that have been done. I will still give you some college basketball updates and et cetera. And yeah, so, I mean, just getting into it, like I told you, Kobe passed away last day suddenly after a helicopter malfunction. And, all prayers and thoughts go out to Kobe and his family. Obviously this is rough for Vanessa, his wife, and his other 3 kids that he has, his 3 daughters. And, it's just sad and unfortunate, Kobe, what Kobe meant to me, growing up. I didn't start watching basketball till, seriously watching basketball till about 06, 07. So this was, I think Kobe had just maybe hit a decade in the league at that point. And, obviously I was a Hawks fan, so I watched the Hawks first. But I knew always who Kobe was. Because Kobe was that one person that, he was that NBA player that if you didn't watch NBA, you still knew who Kobe Bryant is. It's kind of like, now where a lot of people, even if they don't watch basketball, know who LeBron James is. Obviously, he was known as one of the most clutch players, one of the assassin on the court. And obviously he later got nicknames of Black Mamba and etc. He's a guy that always has been like a guy who everybody knew. Number 24 will forever live on as Kobe's number, because there's just certain players that we attach to a number. Like Jordan, we attach 23. Kobe, we attach 24 more than we do 8, even though 8 was also his first number when he came into the league. Obviously it's tough losing someone like Kobe. Kobe is just such an important part of a lot of people's lives. I feel like yesterday's passing really showed the depth and impact of how people view Kobe Bryant. Even people who aren't even, like I said, basketball fans like that knew who Kobe was, knew what Kobe meant. So when he passed, everybody was just kind of like, wow, he's really gone. Like, that's crazy. Even if you didn't like him as a player or anything like that, this was shocking to you. This was surprising to you. This was sad. I called Sunday a day where basically, even if you weren't even if you weren't crying or sad, it was a weird day. It was just weird. It was weird and sad. It just felt like the world was different. The world changed. The world acted weird. It was like they said, when somebody on Twitter said, it felt like the world had stopped for him. Like when he died, the world stopped. Like, oh snap! Everybody was telling everybody, "Hey, Kobe's gone. Kobe passed away. Kobe died." And I remember him just as a man who, his work ethic and his compassion for the game was unmatched. He wanted to be like Jordan so bad. And we could honestly sit here and say Kobe was our Jordan of our generation. He emulated Kobe on so many levels. I mean, not Kobe, but Jordan on so many levels. He truly was the personification of dedication. If you ever want to show someone dedication, you show them Kobe. You tell them about Kobe Bryant. Because Kobe Bryant was the literal definition of dedication, commitment, grind. He wanted to perfect any hole he had in his game. Even if it was a strength. If it was his weakest strength, he wanted to make it his non-weakest strength. That's why Kobe was such a legendary figure. Never forget all the kids who would shoot basketballs at a trash can or anything and say, Kobe, 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 wet. That was what we did growing up because of Kobe. People grew up watching Kobe. Kobe was a teenager for 17 years. He was in the NBA for 20. So we basically watched him grow up from the young high school Kobe to the dad, the husband, the veteran Kobe. We've seen him go through the Shaq and era, the Paul Gasol era, the era where the Lakers weren't even good at all and he had 81 against Toronto Raptors and Jalen Rose. We've seen so many different Kobes. Like, it's just extraordinary. The different versions of Kobe we've seen. Kobe is truly a guy who you just really, you respect him and you appreciate him for everything he has given to the game of basketball. And it sucks because he was about to start his second career of life. And it was going well. I mean, he won an Oscar. And just seeing now his life is cut short so abruptly. It just was so, when something abrupt happens, it just hits you harder. I feel like the thing about this is it's different when someone gets old and they're old and they could die any day. Because then it's just like, well, he's old, but I'm going to miss him. When you have these types of accidents, it hurts even more because it was like something cut you short. It kept you from reaching your full potential. And that's what people were affected by. The fact that his potential was cut. The fact he wasn't able to be who he wanted to be at the end of the day. Kobe is considered a genius for his basketball acumen, his knowledge of the game. And he took that off the court into his second career, and it was going to be great. He affected so many players in the league. A lot of players looked up to Kobe. A lot of players really just, so it's here forever. So, like I said, this show is dedicated to Kobe, his life, how he's remembered around the league, how people viewed him, all of those things. So, stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that. But coming up next, we're going to talk about the Clippers and Lakers being postponed because of the grieving for Kobe and also how the league has dealt with this loss.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Last segment, we were talking about Kobe Bryant, the passing of Kobe Bryant, one of the legends in the game, and what he meant to me, how I'll remember him. We'll go more in broader terms about how he will be remembered in general later in the show, but continuing on with more Kobe-related Kobe talk. The Clippers and Lakers were supposed to play on Tuesday night, obviously another big primetime game between the two teams expected to compete for the NBA championship this year. NBA goes to NBA Finals, one of them at least, since they're in the same conference. So they're going to people are expecting a Western Conference Finals matchup between these two teams. So basically, the Lakers had requested that they postponed the game to grieve. The impact obviously is hurt the hardest in LA because that's where Kobe played his entire career with the Lakers franchise. So they took this news harder than anybody else. There was videos yesterday of LeBron getting off the team playing, crying, emotional. A lot of Laker players are emotional. The entire city was emotional. And I think that, just overall with the teams and everything that in basically they're postponing the game to give the Lakers chance to grieve. And the Clippers had no objection to it and agreed to it, and the league approved it. So it will be postponed for a later date. With a game of that magnitude, you probably want both teams to be in the right mindset. And with Kobe's passing still fresh, it's very unlikely that both teams were going to be there, especially playing in LA, the Staples Center, playing against the two Los Angeles teams. It would be way too emotional of a game, not because of what's on the line or what a team's trying to prove to one another, but more because of the Kobe Bryant factor, that they probably were not ready to play a game like that, of that magnitude right now. And you can't hate that. Very classy move by the LA organization. A very classy move by the Clippers agreeing to this. As again, both of these teams are in LA, so this does not just affect the Lakers. It affects the Clippers because they have been the budding rivalry to Kobe and the Lakers. And just really overall, it's rough, but we make it out here. We're going to make it. And so we don't know the next time. Obviously, Clippers had to play a game yesterday. They won, though. Very emotional game, but they won. A lot of people were calling for postponing the game, postponing all the games, because no player was in the right emotional status at that moment to play a game. And listen, we had some great performances yesterday, which I'll get more into in the next segment, but a lot of, you saw pictures. Tyson Chandler was weeping on the sidelines. He was not there mentally. Austin Rivers is crying. A lot of players were emotional talking about. Doc Rivers got choked up talking about Kobe. Stephen A. Smith, you saw him on ESPN if you watched it. He when he had to do his part, he looked like he had to ball out his eyes before he did it. Everybody was sad and hurt by this news. It affected everybody. When it impacted so many people. Kobe mentored so many of the younger stars in our league. One person it had a big impact on was Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving left the arena and never came back. Kyrie has shown on multiple occasions, the game is a game. This is real life. If the person that he was the closest to, and a lot of people consider his closest mentor, passed away, what would you expect from Kyrie? Kyrie's going to leave. We don't know the next time Kyrie's going to play. I mean, I'm even hearing that maybe Kyrie might consider retiring. It's a crazy situation. The league, you've seen it at every level. My former alma mater of college, University of West Georgia, they had a basketball game, and before the game, they had a moment of silence for Kobe Bryant. Players in games to start games took 24-second violations in honor of Kobe and 8-second backcourt violations for Kobe. They had moments of silences before the games for Kobe. Fans were chanting for Kobe. It was something that just continuously was there. And it's just something that, the impact will be felt for a while. This is something that you'll get to a point of normalism, but you'll never be 100% over. A lot of people feel like this season now should end with the Lakers winning the championship. That LeBron and the Lakers should have even more motivation and drive because Kobe passed. And dedicate this season to Kobe Bryant. And that would be incredible. It really would be. It'd be very incredible. It'd be a fantastic thing. So, it's one of those things that, happens. It's been rough on a lot of people around the league. All legends have came out in support of Kobe, talking about Kobe, talking about what he meant to what Kobe meant to the league. There's even people who are thinking that Kobe should be the new logo of the league. Some people feel like all teams should retire the number 24 jersey in honor of Kobe Bryant. It's just one of those things where, it's interesting to me. A lot of people want to do a lot of different things to remember Kobe, to appreciate Kobe, to allow people to understand how important Kobe Bryant is and has been to so many people who grew up watching basketball while Kobe was playing, to the legends who laid the groundwork for Kobe, and them seeing what he had done with it, making the league a better place. Kobe's last tweet was about LeBron passing him on third all the time on the scoring list. And that's one of the craziest things ever, is that the day before Kobe's accident, LeBron had passed him. And we were all praising it like, oh, this is some great accomplishment. Kobe says, I want LeBron to pass me, and just all of those things. And then the next day to have a tragedy like that, it kind of just puts so much things in perspective for you. It does. It puts a lot of things in perspective. Almost kind of a crazy perspective. You can almost kind of say. So, things happen. But coming up next, we're going to talk about some of the performers that stood out Sunday. And also we're going to talk about the new NBA Power Rankings that were just released. Coming up right here on the podcast.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We're continuing on with this podcast surrounded about Kobe Bryant and his unfortunate passing. And we're going to talk about some performers that stood out on the day of his passing. And the first performer we want to talk about is Trae Young. If you missed last segment, we were talking about his impact that was felt around the league and how the Clippers and Lakers had proposed their big matchup, the third big matchup of the season, to help continue the grieving process in the memory of Kobe Bryant. Trae Young, and the Hawks played last night. Trae Young, Kobe was very close to, because Kobe's daughter, who also passed away with him, her favorite player was Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks, and that's what made Kobe start paying more attention to Trae. And Trae Young beat the Washington Wizards last night in the Hawks. And his stat line was he had 45 points and 14 assists, which you would feel like is a typical Trae shot. But one of the wildest stats ever is he did it on 24 shots, while shooting 81% from the line. And if you remember, Kobe's number is 24, and he scored 81 against Toronto. Trae also posted after the game that this one was for you, Kobe. Rest easy. So, obviously that meant a lot to Trae. Trae also wore Kobe Bryant's number 8 uniform during this game to show tribute to Kobe, which also was a class act by Trae Young. Trae Young was also asked after the game to talk about his last convo that he ever had with Kobe, and he was talking about how, he said Kobe was proud of him and to see how much his game has progressed and continuing to be a role model for kids and his daughter. And, that was obviously big for him, Trae obviously grew up, watching, Kobe, and knowing that Kobe cared for him, cared for his game, and cared for a lot of things just made, everybody, like I said, emotional care, because like I said, Kobe touched a lot of people. I mean, a lot of interviews were done on this topic, and a lot of people were emotional. And so it clearly shows you that this isn't easy for anyone. I mean, it's just one of those things that it's one of the hardest things to deal with. Devin Booker also had 35 points last night on 24 shots, which was also another Kobe stat. It's like I said, it's still shocking to a lot of people that Kobe is not with us today. And it's just one of those things that it's like I said, it's gonna take a while to kind of get over. It's gonna take a while to kind of get over. Tributes are still going on tonight. I'm sure tributes will go on tomorrow. People at his high school are starting to show tribute to Kobe. People, when Kobe died, went to the Staples Center, which it was funny because the Grammys was at the Staples Center, and they actually were really hoping that people wouldn't come do it because obviously, they got to get the Grammys going there. And it was just one of those things where everything was impacted by the Kobe Bryant passing. It was talked about at everybody's workplace. It was talked about at, I'm sure if you had a late enough church, they talked about it there. They talk about it, at the bar. They talked about it in any place of residence. Different sports. I mean, NBA is a national sport. It hit different people. Neymar, I believe, was one of the people who threw up the 2-4 after scoring a goal. And it was one of those things where, basically, it just really showed a lot of crazy stuff that has happened. Because it really showed that, Kobe's reach is just not to basketball. It's everywhere. Players from all over, from every sport, were wishing their condolences to Kobe and his family. It's absolutely amazing outpour. Amazing outpour. So, we're going to try to do some more basketball related stuff for the rest of this segment. And we're going to get into the NBA power rankings. I'm going to break this down all the way from 30 to 1, give you quick thoughts on some teams, and go from there. Number 30 on the power rankings. This is off Bleacher Report. Number 30, the Golden State Warriors. Obviously this is obviously Golden State's not expected to do too much this year. DeAndre Russell, though, is posting career highs in true shooting percentage and usage rate, and he's getting more foul shots and taking more of a percentage from three. But Golden State just really isn't, they don't really have the horses anymore to do anything. Cleveland at number 29. Obviously, they're on a 7-game skid. They're struggling a lot. Cleveland just does not look like a good team this year. Minnesota comes in at 28. Again, Minnesota's been struggling. They traded Jeff Teague. Karl-Anthony Towns at 40 in their loss to Chicago last Wednesday, and it's not working for the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. And the thing about it is they still technically have a chance to make it to the playoffs, but it's just the more games they lose, the further it gets away from them. 27, the Atlanta Hawks. They've played slightly better. Trae Young's still playing at a high level. Obviously, Trae Young became the Eastern Conference All-Star starter. They went 2-2, so that's the last time one went 2-2 in a week. It's been a while. Charlotte 26. They're a big turnover team. They played well in the first half against the Milwaukee Bucks, but just wasn't able to pull it through. The Knicks are 25. They should probably trade Marcus Morris because you could probably get something back for him and build for the future because the season's over for the Knicks and they know it. The Kings, obviously, they bench Buddy Hield. It's not really a good thing. Honestly, there should be some very big questions about Luke Walton because he's been on 2 teams with young talent and it's not worked. So Luke Walton needs to be under some scrutiny for what's been happening since he's been coaching teams like that. Wizards 23. Bradley Beal, he's voiced his frustration. He's still competing at a high level, but the Wizards just keep losing games. Number 22 is the Detroit Pistons. Derrick Rose has actually 12 games with 20 points. 20 points straight. So clearly, he's still doing his thing. That's why he's a very big trade asset at the trade deadline for a lot of teams. Number 21, the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls it feels like they're not reaching the success they should have. But Zach LaVine is having a great year, so good job for Zach. The Brooklyn Nets, obviously, Kyrie, we don't know when he's going to get back. And they've been losing to a lot. And right now the Nets are kind of faltering a little bit. With the 8th spot, they're faltering. They've lost 5-6 in a row. And they're still at the 8th spot. So it kind of keeps teams in the Eastern Conference alive for that spot. Number 19, Portland. Obviously, Damian Lillard's trying to do anything he can to keep his team competitive. Number 18, Phoenix. Devin Booker's doing anything to keep the team competitive. Number 17. Magic I feel like are a very mediocre team, and that's what their record shows. 16, the Spurs. Also, the Spurs, I think, are a very mediocre team, and it's showing. Number 15, the Pelicans. They're playing better with Zion. Zion's playing great, so it's going to be exciting to see what happens in the future with Zion. Number 14, the Memphis Grizzlies. John Morant, I think, is too ahead of the pack to lose Rookie of the Year, so I think he got it. Houston is number 13. They've lost some games. Russell Westbrook's played well, but they've lost a lot of games this month. Indiana, they're still playing pretty well after getting destroyed by Utah, coming back to get a win over Phoenix. 76ers, after beating the Lakers, are probably feeling very high, especially with Embiid out. That's a great win for the team. Dallas is 10. Even though the White Power itself and the Achilles are still playing well. Oklahoma City is 9. They're a rising team in the Western Conference. Number 8 is Boston, one of the dark horse teams in the Eastern Conference. Miami is 8th. They're a team to be watching out for in the future. 6 is the Denver Nuggets. Obviously one of the most underrated Western Conference teams. Clippers are 5. 4 is Toronto. 3 is Utah. 2 is the Lakers. And number 1 is the Milwaukee Bucks, as they have the best record in the NBA. But coming up next, we're going to be talking about the Mavs retiring the number 24 jersey, J.R. Smith working out for the Lakers, and the Mavs trading for Willie Cauley-Stein.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Last segment, we talked about some of the standout performers that stood out Sunday. Obviously, the passing of Kobe Bryant. And also the new NBA Power Rankings, as I basically mentioned every team and tried to give a little small file on every team up to this point in the season. So now we're going to get into some news and notes around the league, starting with the Mavs retiring number 24. Mark Cuban came out on Twitter and announced that the Mavericks will retire Kobe's number 24 jersey. Even though he never played for the Dallas Mavericks, they're retiring the jersey. As, again, a lot of people feel like that this should be a league-wide thing. And, just never allow anybody else to wear 24 ever. It's a great gesture, I think, by Dallas's Mark Cuban, because if he does it, that might start everybody else doing it, because it's just like you kind of need somebody to kind of initiate things like this to then do things like this into the future. And with Mark Cuban doing this now, this creates that opportunity potentially for them and other teams to do more things into the future. So that's a great job on his part to do something like that. It just shows you that he's not afraid to step out on a limb and create something that maybe people feel like should happen. And so, congrats to him. Like I said, people want Kobe to be the new logo. People want Kobe's number 24 jersey to be retired. There's even some people think that even his number 8 should be retired. Everybody has, like I said, everybody's trying to figure out how to honor Kobe and everything he has done for this game and how important he is to this game. So all these suggestions will be thrown around. We'll see what actually ends up happening at the end of the day and how they end up, or where they end up actually, actually honoring him. We'll just have to see. But, like I said, great job by Mark Cuban to at least start something. And now we just have to see where it goes from here. And see how many teams and maybe players potentially follow along and follow this example that has been set. for them moving forward. So obviously that's going to be an interesting case. I believe that will be looked at long term. In other news around the league, J.R. Smith has worked out for the Lakers. Nothing is intimate though, but J.R. Smith is currently a free agent shooting guard right now. He has history with LeBron. He's played with LeBron, but we also know he's the guy with one of the biggest blunders in NBA Finals history, getting the ball and not shooting it when the team got an offensive rebound because he thought they had a lead when the game was tied. People have made jokes about J.R. Smith thinking about Kobe. LeBron would never want him back because of something like that and everything. J.R., he's a shooter, so, and that's what the Lakers want to add. They want to add shooting. Veteran shooting, 3-and-D guy, which J.R. is at this point in his career. And, just trying to see what actually ends up happening. Like I said, in the long term of things. Because, that's obviously something that you want to see. And something that you would love to care to see. It's funny because, J.R. Smith is a meme machine too. So I think a lot of people would like J.R. Smith coming back into the league. And if he does go back with the Lakers, a lot of people are going to be surprised, but I think a lot of people are also going to be happy and excited that J.R. Smith is back in the league playing. And we'll have to see how he works into that Laker dynamic, as the Lakers, again, are like one of the better teams in the league. So, it's something that is very impressive to me. Still need to get a call out there to Jamal Crawford. I think Jamal Crawford needs a call. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Jamal Crawford because we forget how good of a scoring machine he is. I know Jamal Crawford's older, but he can still get you buckets, right? And what they need is a playmaker. Jamal Crawford can be a playmaker. So I think that's something that I don't know why, but I think a team should definitely try to look into if I'm the Lakers. And maybe you don't want J.R. Smith particularly back, I guess, to say, in terms of with LeBron James and stuff like that. And then in some trade news around the league, the Mavericks traded for Willie Cauley-Stein. That obviously they needed a center after losing Dwight Powell to a Achilles injury. He was a very big part of what they do. And with him being now traded for, Willie Cauley-Stein is a very athletic player who brings athleticism and dunking and he can block shots, which they want him to do. And I think that ain't nothing wrong with that. And I think it's a good move. They need to make this move. They needed a center, so this is definitely a move that was needed to be made. And they did the best move they feel like they could make without giving up too much, because I'm sure Dallas still feels like they can make a playoff run. And obviously if you're trying to make a playoff run, you're going to try to put yourself in position to make a playoff run. So you won't want to give up too much assets, but if there's a hole or two, you definitely want to try to fill that hole as quickly and as smooth as possible. And, so that way you can compete going into the future. And just helps continue the progress of the team moving forward at the same time. Willie Cauley-Stein is a player who was a top 10 pick coming out of Kentucky. Some people had higher expectations for him. They knew he was a defensive player, but thought maybe he could develop an offensive game. And I guess it never had developed to the point where everybody thinks, but he's still great in pick and roll situations. And like I said, he's great on the defensive end if you need block shots and a rim protector. So I think he feels what the Dallas Mavericks pretty much need, basically, from him. Because like I said, it's just about fit when it comes to the team. Does he fit what we're trying to do? Does he fit what we want to do? I think that's the biggest question that is always asked when these trades are made. And in other news, like I said earlier, Buddy Hield was benched by Luke Walton. I mean, you just paid this man $88 million. You're benching him, so that's not a good sign. Like I said, I think Luke Walton should be under scrutiny because this is the second team with young talent who played well before him. Well, initially he didn't, but they played well before him, and now the guys who played well for the Kings last year are not playing that well this year. And obviously we know David Yeager, who was the former Kings coach, had some fallout with the GM and the ownership of the Sacramento Kings, but it feels like Luke Walton is not getting the job done. People felt like Luke Walton was young and could relate to these players, but it just looks like it's getting worse. And now you're benching one of your best players, and it's not looking good for the Sacramento Kings. And Luke Walton, if this ends up getting worse, could be fired by the end of this year and maybe out of a job for a second. Because that's the second stint in a row where he doesn't show. Because it's like, okay, we don't think he could do well with a championship team, but we also feel like with young teams he doesn't do well either. So is he even ready to be a head coach? Would be a question a lot of people have, and we don't know when would Luke Walton ever get another head coaching job again. But coming up next, we're going to get into some college basketball talk. We're going to talk about some results that happened from the weekend. We're also going to talk about the new AP poll that was dropped in college basketball.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Now we're going to get some college basketball talk. Talk about some big games, big results from the weekend. We're also going to talk about some new AP poll rankings that actually come out. Obviously, these come out every Monday, so we're going to talk about that too. But we're going to start with the games. Obviously, a big game happened Friday between Marquette and the Bulldogs of Butler. Obviously, Butler has been losing a lot of games recently, lost 3 straight going into this game. They were able to pull out an overtime victory, 89-85, against the Golden Eagles of Marquette. Obviously, this game was big because Butler needed this game to get back on track, and they were able to get back on track with a big 31 points from Baldwin. Kamar Baldwin, he had a big game for them. He really helped them get back on track, which they really needed in this game. Obviously, Butler did not want to lose another game. Maybe that could potentially hurt them in the committee's eyes. You never want that. Clearly, you want to always be on your best at all times and remain in the graces of the media in terms of these polls. An upset also happened as Arizona State upsetted Arizona 66-65. Arizona State was just clutched late with a big basket. And, it's funny. This is a big win for the Arizona State Sun Devils just for the tournament resume, beating an Arizona team who probably will, not be valued as highly after lose like a loss like this. I mean, they've lost 7 games, so they got to be careful not to lose too many, or else they may not even be in consideration for a playoff spot. Maybe they may have to win the Pac-12 tournament to get in. Obviously, a guy like Sean Mannion, the best player on the team, he's played well. He's played the way you expect him to play through these things. It's one of those things as Arizona have enough talent to really be a real team at the end of the day. Another close game, potential upset game, potentially, was Notre Dame almost was able to pull out the victory against the Seminoles. The Seminoles had a 10-point lead in the first half, and Notre Dame come all the way back in the second half and just was not able to make the buckets down the stretch to be able to get over the hump and beat and upset the number 5 team in the country in Florida State, who is secretly one of the best teams in the NCAA. They're 17-2 on the year. Not a lot of teams talk about Florida State, but they're one of the best teams out there playing currently in college basketball, as shown by the record, as shown by who they've beaten this year. Right now, they look like the best team in the ACC right now. And, you know, they're a team that you're going to definitely have to watch out for long term. Obviously, we had some big games. Baylor was able to survive against Florida at Florida, 72-61. Obviously, this was a big game because this is the Big 12 versus SEC. Little classic matchups they're having, and this was a good one for Baylor. Obviously, being a number 1 in the country never guarantees you that you're going to be number 1 that long, and now Baylor's able to be number 1 just for another week or so. I mean, it's like I said, so many upsets that happen in college basketball this year. You don't know who's going to actually hang on and who's not. So it's great that they were able to pull out this victory and they were able to win this game, because they needed this more than anybody else, and they were able to get the results they needed. So, you know, that's good for them. An instant classic at Kentucky. Kentucky beat Texas Tech at Texas Tech in overtime, 76-74. Just clutch baskets down the stretch by Austin Higgins. You know, this was a great game. Great atmosphere, great crowd, great everything. And you're seeing it live here. That Kentucky is definitely a team to be reckoned with. Kentucky is a team that they've played better. They lost a couple of games early, but they've really hit the grind lately. They've beaten some good teams. Texas Tech is not a slouch, and they went into their home court and they were able to pull out a victory. Also, Kansas was able to survive the Tennessee. Obviously, this is the first game, one of the few games after the suspensions of some of their best players. So beating a team like Tennessee, who was looking to get an upset to help improve their resume, and being able to come out with a victory on their end, I think was big for the Kansas City Jayhawks and confidence in their team, knowing that we're down a few players, but we're still able to come out here and compete. Now, we'll have to see how they do against better competition, but this is a good start for them to be able to come out and win a game like this. You know, it was a hostile environment for Tennessee, and they were making it very competitive. So we also had another upset as SMU defeated the Memphis Tigers 74-70. It's funny because the Tigers started off out in the first half 41-32. They had the lead, they had the momentum, they had the advantage. And the second half, the Mustangs SMU really just came back and just really outplayed them in all facets: rebounding, 3-point shooting, everything. Tim Hardaway Sr. said that the confidence in the team right now is pretty low. Memphis has lost a lot of games recently, and it all started with that Georgia loss, and it's been spiraling downhill since then. So they have not been the same team since that happened. So, obviously, Memphis is trying to figure things out. Also, Illinois defeated Michigan 64-62 in the game-winning shot at the buzzer by Illinois. Michigan's really fell off ever since they started the season unranked, then got all the way to the top 5, and then ever since then they've really fallen off a bridge. They're 11-8 now. It's just not, it's like you think about the beginning of the start, they beat quality teams, and now they're struggling to win games, and then you're just trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening, why are we struggling as a team to compete and win, and other things like that. it's definitely something that just makes things interesting. See if Michigan can bounce back and if Juwan Howard can get those boys ready. Maryland, they beat Indiana 77-76 in a great game. Came down to the wire. Maryland, was able to hang on. They obviously needed to hang on. Big one for them to go 16-4 in the year. Hoosiers 15-5, one of the best unranked teams, I think, in the country right now. And so that's your big scores and updates. Now we're going to get into the AP poll. At number one, obviously Baylor remained number one. Obviously, like I said, they won their games, so they've been able to do what they've had to do. Gonzaga's number two. Obviously, Gonzaga, if Baylor goes down, would be the presumed next number one team again, and they would be number one for the second time this year. Number three, Kansas. Obviously, like I said, coming off of a good victory. Number four, San Diego State, obviously the only remaining undefeated team in the entire college basketball landscape. Everybody's wondering how can they go undefeated through the season and into the tournament potentially. Number five, Florida State. Obviously, like I said, one of the best ACC teams, if not the best ACC team right now, currently playing, based off what we've seen so far. Number six, Louisville. Like I said, they're competing, with Florida State and Duke and all of them to show that they're one of the best. Number seven, Dayton. Obviously, Dayton, like I said, a team I always say I picked before the season as a surprise sleeper to do something in the tournament and make a deep run. Number eight, Villanova. Obviously, Villanova, basketball pinnacle of Philadelphia in terms of college basketball. Good team every year. Duke, number nine. Coach K getting those guys ready. And then number 10, cracking it, is Seton Hall. Seton Hall's had a very quietly good season. Now they've cracked the top 8, so they're going to start getting some more national attention moving forward. But coming up next, we're going to finish this show by just continuing to talk about Kobe and remembering Kobe Bryant here on the podcast.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Basketball podcast. Last time we talked about college basketball, some of the big games that happened this past weekend, and also the new AP poll that came out. Obviously, talking about the top 10 teams when it comes to that. So now we're going to continue on, ending this show by remembering Kobe, remembering some of Kobe's greatest moments. One thing obviously that sticks out is when Kobe dropped 81 against the Toronto Raptors. Obviously, that game has always lived in infamy for Kobe, as that's always been the game that we just think about when we think of Kobe Bryant because of how historical it was. And Kobe was unstoppable that game. He was unstoppable that season. Remember, this is when the Lakers were not good. Kobe, but it showed you Kobe's determination. Even if the team isn't good enough, to him, he still felt like there's still a chance. So if I have to do more to give us a chance to make up for it, I will. If I have to average 40 a game to give us a chance to win games, then I will. And that's just one of the greatest things about Kobe, is that in any situation, he will always motivate you and motivate himself to try harder, do more, do anything that is possible and anything that is needed to compete at a high level. And that's something you can't take away from him. Some people are making jokes about on Twitter about how when he sees David Stern in heaven, he's going to have a Stern talking to him about the fact that he vetoed that Chris Paul trade. I think that's actually kind of funny. Obviously, people wonder what would have happened if Kobe was able to get Chris Paul on his team. How many more championships would he have won? Chris Paul, would he have had his first championship, you know? Because this is when the Lakers were still the Lakers and still competing for championships. So that was something that was just kind of an interesting thing to think about. Another thing, Kobe, you know, his last game, scoring 60. His last game before retiring. You know, it was a magical night in the Staples Center. It was a magical night for Kobe. It was a magical night for every fan that has ever followed Kobe, you know, loved Kobe, and been through the journey with Kobe. Seeing him go out like that with a win, 60 points, it was just so historic in that regard. You know, he's a guy who, you know, also in his second phase of life after basketball, like I said, was a mentor to so many young people. So many young people. He has done anything to help any of these younger players to be the best they can be, to maximize their game and to maximize their success. That is the kind of man that Kobe is. He is a man who wants to see everybody succeed. Even when he was hard on you, it wasn't because he didn't like you. It's because you knew Kobe just wanted to get the maximum out of you. He wanted to get the best out of you. He wanted you to be the best version because he knew if everybody was the best they could be, then every year they'd have a chance to win a championship, or at least attempt to win a championship. That's why the Lakers were always in it in so many different occasions, because of that particular mindset that Kobe had. You know, I don't say this much. Obviously, this is a basketball podcast, but I'm a wrestling fan. And then last night when I was watching the Royal Rumble for WWE, they had a tribute to Kobe. You know, it's one of those things where Kobe was everywhere when he passed. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, every sport, everything. Kobe. Couldn't get away from Kobe. If that doesn't show you the kind of impact that Kobe has on the world, on people, then, you know, it's something that creates such a great dynamic. And, you know, Kobe's going to be missed. A lot of people are going to miss Kobe. Of course, I mean, he's the guy who, like I said, has meant to so many people growing up, so many people in the league, so many past individuals, all the people he contacted, all the people he knew. It's one of those things that, you know, it'll always show. It'll always show. So, we hope for the best for Kobe's family in this very trying time for him and his entire family. It's a very emotional time for everybody who has ever been connected to him. It's a trying time for just anybody involved with basketball ever, on all age groups, in all leagues, in all countries. We should take this time to appreciate everything he has done for this league and everything he has done for the game of basketball. He has been a great ambassador for the game of basketball. A absolutely great ambassador. And he has done it well. And he has done it at a very high level. And everything he does, Kobe puts his 100% dedication, commitment, and his all into every little thing, no matter how little. If it was coaching his daughter and her basketball team, if it was breaking down film in his ESPN show that won an Oscar, if it was him maybe doing a commercial, maybe him mentoring younger players, helping younger players. Everything that Kobe was, he solidified himself in every way possible, in every situation. And Kobe Bryant will be missed. I miss Kobe. Everybody misses Kobe, and we only hope for the best. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Basketball Podcast here on the GSMC Podcast Network. I hope all of you have a great day, a great week. And I hope that any issues that you have in your life, anything that has been bothering you guys, I hope it gets worked out soon. I hope that y'all really appreciate life for what it is. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.